Welcome to Widener's Weather Wagers with Sam. How you doing?
I need to have like a W in there, like
Yeah.
Wineers Weather Wagers with, and then maybe the W silent. It's WSAM.
we got some work to do during the off season. We'll make it a little.
Or just bring in like Wineers Weather Wagers with Walter. Find a guy named Walter or something.
You're replaceable.
So, hey, I don't know what's going on, but it's just another enormous week for you. I hope you play Powerball as well. We'll get into that. But yeah, we're back for another week, and it's just the beat keeps rolling on here with between the picks given out in the show, the picks that you're putting out on Twitter, so people can get down on the best numbers.
Yeah.
That's why you got to follow at UnderMike626 on Twitter for the timeliness. And I know you did an emergency broadcast of a short that got a lot of people watching. So
yeah,
let's quick dig into last week, and then we'll start on this week.
Yeah, it's been a busy week. What we had last week, not all of the games played out exactly how I thought they would weather-wise, but we went 4-1 in those unders. So, like I said, once in a while, it's not 100% exact science, but even if it doesn't play out how you think it's going to, it can still go under.
What were the let's go. What were the wins? So we had the FCS under.
So that was my big play. The FCS, that was the one I liked right away.
Yeah.
The Montana State, South Dakota State. That was.
Yeah. I was worried about that one early. There was some quick scoring by
So that was one where it was
South
very
Dakota
cold,
State.
Very cold forecast. There was snow and ice and crap all week, and there was a little bit of wind. But wind chills were going to be probably below zero. So I jumped on that right away. Got 59.5. It went down to 57.5. Then it went back up to 59. Then it I think ended up back down at 58. And yeah, that game, Saturday, I was busy. I didn't really get to do, it's family Christmas, and I wasn't really watching anything. But I saw I was getting text messages. I didn't even want to look. And then a lot of text messages from Sam is usually bad. So I looked down and saw 30s and texts. I was like, all right, I'm not ruining my day. I'm just gonna go with the flow here. And
they were marching.
Yeah. So then you mentioned about the field and everything. So the field was just slick. It was just ice. They were skating around, and the offense had a clear advantage, at least in the beginning. And
yep.
I don't know. Somehow we stayed. What did it end at? 57, I think.
Right. And I know you were worried about some of the people who jumped on late, making sure they won. So everybody won.
So if that 2-point conversion would have hit, they would have lost. And
right.
I
would have lost as well. I didn't even get in as early as you did. So I was happy. That was nice for that to work out. So that was when. What was the loss?
The loss was the Miami Buffalo. That was a rough one, and again, I think that's something we'll work on going forward. Once in a while, there's things that come up where I just can't. I didn't have really any time Saturday to watch that forecast unfold. That was something we kind of planned ahead. There was lake effect snow, and I think that was when they were calling for that big Buffalo snowstorm a couple weeks ago. I was like, I don't really like playing the lake effect snow because it's such a narrow band. It's hard to forecast exactly where that's going to be. But they, the couple days prior to this, they were very certain this is going to be over Orchard Park. And finally, all right, I can't have this and not play the under. So let's play the under. So it was 44.5 when we played it. I think it dropped to 43.5. But this was one where, if I was home, I was in Delaware, so I couldn't even bet anyway.
You could have adjusted.
I could have adjusted that, and that was one. Yeah,
in the future,
if I
maybe
see
we will.
It's not going to start till the fourth quarter. This total was way too low for these teams, and I probably would have hit someone that over. But yeah, that was the loss, and it was.
Stuff happens. It's one loss. Stuff misses. But yeah, so that was the loss. We'll when we lose, and there's going to be losing weeks at some point. There has to be, just how the thing works. But let's go over some of the other wins. That win last night, oh my God, Green Bay, it screwed me because I needed Green Bay I had some props bet on the game.
Yeah.
And I needed Van Jefferson to get 3 catches for like 34 yards, and he had 2 for 32 since like the first half. And I need them to get the ball back late, hopefully, and soft defense and drive. And nope, they took the last like 9 minutes and didn't put a single point on the board, including, I mean, if you're watching out there and you had this under, like, I always say this, and I'll put it up on the board here just to kind of hammer it home. Remember the times you get lucky, because there's going to be a lot of times when you don't get lucky, but this is one to remember, because Aaron Rodgers had an audible to Christian Watson for a wide open touchdown, a signal he was giving him, and the rookie apparently either doesn't know to look for this or wasn't paying attention just because he's young and stupid. It would have been a walk-in touchdown.
The interview was great afterwards. Did you hear that?
I didn't see it.
Rodgers, it was like they asked him about that play, and he's like, hey, if you want to catch touchdowns, you got to know the play or something like that. He said. I was like,
and then the next play, the rush down to just gets the first down.
Yes. So that I guess brought up 4th down, right?
I mean, it was absolute what needed to happen, because if they get stopped, then there's going to be a change of possession, a chance for scoring. Instead, he goes down at the 1, not intentionally, just gets tackled, and you get the knees. And another awesome win. So that was a win. And what were the 2 other wins?
We had the Philadelphia-Chicago under 48.5.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a mix between 2 of us. That wasn't just under Mike. That was also Sam. We were looking at that one earlier in the week, and
I like these collaboration ones where where you like text me something, and I'm like, well, that makes a lot of sense, because how the game should flow. Now again, the Eagles are my team, and I can't tell you how pissed I am at that game plan. That first of all, Hurts got hurt because we decided that against one of the league's worst rush Ds, we're going to have him drop back. We're going to have him run all over the place instead of giving it to Miles Sanders, who's been amazing. My thought was in this game that we would pound Miles Sanders, which would in turn run the clock a ton. Not a lot of like big, long pass plays. Nope, complete opposite. But the clock did run a lot, with Fields running and getting sacked. Clock runs on that. He got sacked a ton. When we were looking at that game with the weather and where the number was at, it was just one of those ones where all kind of aligned. We're like, this is a good spot for an under, and another that would have been an unlucky loss had it lost, but no, it held on. And it was a nice win.
And that was something I posted maybe an hour or 2 before the game. And that was a total that was, I think, 48.5. And the weather was cold. It wasn't super windy, but it was very cold. Some wind. I wasn't excited about playing it early. But then right before game time, that's when we talked about this, and the total hadn't dropped at all. It was still 48.5. That's a lot of points. If there's going to be a lot of running, it's going to be hard to get there. And it wasn't really close until the end, and then got a little hairy, but pulled it out.
And I'm scrolling across the bottom for everybody. Obviously, subscribe, Widener's Weather Wagers. You're watching here on YouTube. Subscribe, comment, like. We want to build this as big as possible. Get everybody, the information out as quick as possible. And that play, Mike just said he posted an hour before kickoff. There's certain things, that we're not going to always be able to cover on the show because weather changes, things change. So follow Mike, follow at @undermike626 on Twitter, add alerts. So when he tweets, it blows up your phone and you can see it could be a drunken rant. There's a risk you take. Drunken rant's possible. However,
it's definitely possible.
However, right now, just throw me out, throw my record out, even though it's winning. Just Under Mike is batting 75% this year. I mean, it's insane. He's 18-6, so set those alerts. So I digress. I just want everybody to realize, it makes a lot of sense to, follow on the Twitter. There was one other game then?
The last one I had was the Cincy Louisville at Fenway Park game Saturday morning. And that was one too where there was a.
We talked about this on the show.
What's that?
We talked about this one on the show, right? Yep.
Yeah. So Yeah, we were looking at that one for a while. I ended up taking it 41.5. It seemed initially like the rain and snow was going to hang on a bit in the morning through at least the first half, but I didn't see any of the game, but I think it was the system pulled out a little bit quicker then. And there might have been a little precipitation in the first quarter, 15 to 20 mile per hour winds. And I looked at it, and they had some scoring. There was a pretty high scoring first half and not much in the second half. So once in a while, again, I thought I was going to be losing that one. But.
No, I mean, but we talked about that too, is also a play on the fact that we're so many guys missing on skillful guys on offense that were the guys that are big play guys. So I think that really came into play as well. And we talked about that, like, obviously it was, you're looking at the weather, but we're also looking at, the game itself. So you can't just say, oh, bad weather conditions, no matter what, bet the under. It depends what the number's at, what we think of that, and, how it affects it. So, yeah, a 4-1. And me, we'll give you a quick wrap up of me. I was 1-1, a lot easier to wrap up. I'm now 8-5 on the season. The Seahawks play, I still like it. I'd play it again right now if I could. But, whatever. It was a coverable game, but they didn't. And then at least the college game was no sweat. Really never had to follow that game.
Yeah, that was a blowout.
So I lost the Seahawks getting the points, but Oregon State just destroyed Florida. Like I thought, these SEC teams, I'm telling you, they're a lot of them that are in the middle and towards the bottom, depending on how their season's going, they're quitters. And the Florida quarterback, who was, pretty much their whole offense for a while, had opted out, went into the draft. So I kind of expect to have Oregon State's one of the more physical Pac-12 teams. And they wanted this bad. It meant something to them. It was in Vegas, closer to them, their fans. So easy win. 1-1 again, just lose a little bit of juice, but 8-5 overall positive, which is good, which means the show record is 26-11. Unbelievable. Another winning week overall. It's great. You love to see it.
We're just giving people money if they play the game.
Exactly. So let me go here. I'm going to let's talk about this week and what you're what you're keeping an eye on so far.
So this week is interesting. There's been a ton of hype over a huge storm system. Initially, they were going back a week or so even. This was in the models, and the models were more towards a coastal storm, and they were saying this could be like a 93, a 96, basically a 10, 15-year storm for the coast. After a couple of days, the model shifted inland a bit, and now this storm is going to be going up kind of a little bit west of Pennsylvania and Ohio, and then shooting into Canada. But it is going to be a massive system with a lot of wind. So it's been busy. I've been every day looking at everything, seeing how the models are playing out, and it's pretty consistent now, even though if you're looking at NFL games, it's still Tuesday and the games are Saturday this week. But there's been movement on these lines.
You put them out on Twitter, though.
I did. That's what some of these, I was like, I got to wait to see the Sunday games before I do anything with this, just to see if anything happens with players, injuries, things like that. But a couple of these I waited on. And for example, I'll start with the big one, the New Orleans and Cleveland. I was looking at that. I saw it at 38.5, and I was like, I'm just going to wait till Sunday night, check the 6 or 7 o'clock model run, make sure nothing changed. I did that, go to bet it, and it already had dropped to 35.5.
That's when, so we're going to count it. That's when you put it out on Twitter. It's what we do when Mike releases it. If it moves further, obviously we can't really control that, but New Orleans, Cleveland, under 35.5. That's one of those Twitter alerts. I'm telling you guys, get on it. This is a popular. What's it down to now? 32?
31.5.
31.5. Oh,
so
my God.
I actually just read an article before this, and it's the lowest total since 2008. of an NFL game, and there's been 16 games since 1979 at 31 or lower. Only 16 games. So it's kind of funny. In the whole article, there was nothing mentioned about the weather until the very last sentence. Oh, yeah, and it's going to be windy and very, very cold.
Did they say what that game was in 2008?
I do not have that. No, they may have, but
because I specifically remember, I think it was a Monday night or Sunday night game. It was, I believe, Pittsburgh and Cleveland. Yeah. Horrible weather, and the field was destroyed. Like it was soft and muddy.
I had 200 on that. Yeah, I remember. I was at Legends. I remember it.
And I think at the time, I think I was splitting taking bets with one of our friends, Craig, and this numbskull wasn't paying attention to like what was going on, and he had put out a second half line of like, he's like, I saw online it's like 7, but that's crazy, and I'm gonna bump it up, and I made it, and he made it higher. He might only made it 7.5 or 8 or whatever, I was like, you idiot! Like nobody can move. Everybody
they couldn't move. Yeah,
you take a step and you sink into the field. The punts were hitting the ground and plugging.
So. I remember that exact moment. It's so funny because I may have been at the bar with you. I don't know. I remember someone said something about the second half line, and I'm like, nah, I'm good. I had like 30. I think it was like 33, 34 or somewhere. Yeah. I don't know. I can't remember that well, but I'm good for the game. I don't need the second half line, whatever it may have been. I had 200 on it, and I usually bet like $20 a game at that point in my life.
Right. Yeah. And I was actually trying to find it when it was from, but I will never forget the game and just sitting there like knowing this numbskull wasn't paying attention. It didn't know it was going to be like next to impossible for anybody to score. That was a fun one. But so New Orleans, Cleveland. It was 2007 Pittsburgh, Miami 3-0 final. Monday Night Mud.
Yeah. Yep. Monday night. Legends buffet.
59 minutes of scoreless, slipping and sliding on a soggy field. Everything appeared to be in slow motion. Punting was difficult, kicking impossible, and players were sinking ankle deep into the field at times.
It was insane. I remember that. I remember that. That's just crazy.
That's a Hall of Fame type weather game, but I had to mention that when you're talking about like how bad this game could be. So sometimes it's one of those like, hey, there maybe is no total that's low enough, but at this point, 31 and a half, it is tough to bet those unders. Yeah. So that's why you get on Twitter. I'm going to say it again so you can hit it early. So what's the other? You got Buffalo and Chicago as the other under that you're tailing in the NFL right now.
Yeah. So that one, I think that opened at like 45. I have under 41 and a half. I was kind of debating that one. The storm system is going to be through. It's going to be in Canada, but it's bringing down a ton of wind behind it and Arctic weather. Chicago is going to be under 10 degrees, probably 8-9 degrees at game time with, say, 20-mile-per-hour winds.
So the wind chill is going to be negative.
It's going to be brutal. I would not want to be at this game. And I felt like, you have to – this is what I do. You have to take that bet, 41 and a half, even though Buffalo, they can score, good quarterback. Chicago, he can run a lot, of course. But
he doesn't have anybody to throw to. I mean, literally, as much this week.
And that was the point you made past week of why we took that under too. He has not many options to throw.
Claypool's out, so
there's going to be a lot of running. The clock's going to be moving, and they're going to want to get the hell out of there. And so that's an under 41 and a half. It is down to 39 and a half now on some sites, 40 and a half on some sites. But I posted that, I forget when, yesterday or day before.
And then lastly, it looks like you got a college bowl under for us.
Yes, so that was the big one. That is actually my biggest bet of the week.
Okay, all right, that's good to know.
I was looking at it Saturday night, probably hammered, And I woke up early Sunday and saw that everything was kind of holding true with this forecast, with this big storm developing. So it's kind of dropping down from the northwest to the lower plains, and then just kind of shooting up. And that wind is going to be, this is in Fort Worth, Baylor Air Force, under 49 and a half. I did a video, a short, on Sunday morning, and that was my play for 49 and a half. And as of now, I believe the last I saw it was at 43.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. A lot of closing line value, like the kids like to say. Yeah, I mean, hey, Baylor's offense doesn't do a ton for me, and Air Force is a triple option team, so that clock's gonna be churning. So hopefully take that one down. It sounds good. Under Mike with 3 unders. You know, that's what we're here for.
So before I go to my other picks, you mentioned about the Air Force team. Would that be something you would consider playing them in this game as a primary running attack like that?
Yeah, the weather won't affect them at all. Service count, I don't think it'll affect them at all. So it's a matter of taking a look at the game and looking at the line and determining, I'm sure the line is probably shortened with this weather. Baylor had to be close to a touchdown favorite, I would assume. I didn't look at that.
I think it opened around 6. I think it's 4.5 now.
Yeah, so that sounds about right both ways, I would say, in terms of what I would have guessed it opened at. Yeah, I'm showing 3.5 now. So people are saying the same thing we're saying. Big game for Air Force and these service academies. They really want to win these bowl games, and yeah, it's a good spot for them. I don't know if I'd taken out 3.5, but when it was 6, wouldn't have been viable. But yeah, that's one of those. That if you're looking for a side, maybe lean Air Force. What are others do you have to keep an eye on? And our others to keep an eye on segment?
So yeah, there's a lot of games in the 1 o'clock slate for Sunday.
You need to get a glass eye, and just others to keep an eye on.
Yeah. So I've been looking at these. There's going to be a lot of cold games. It seems like the wind is not going to be as much of a factor in some of these games as initially forecast a couple days ago. So I had the Houston Tennessee game highlighted. I had Seattle KC. It's going to be cold in Kansas City. I'm at Kansas City mid-teens, but only 5 to 10 mile per hour winds. It's still going to be freezing. It's 48 and a half Seattle KC, but I'm just not really keen to take that one. I was looking at it, but I don't think I'm going to do it.
Okay.
But there was a few others. So there is Atlanta, Baltimore. That's another one that's going to be low to mid 20s game time. Winds 10 to 20 mile per hour. Wind chill's pretty damn low. And I don't know, with how these teams have been, that is one that I was looking at, and I actually just put it in right before the show. That's going to be an official play for me. Atlanta, Baltimore under 37 and a half. That was available on all the books.
Play. All right. I like it. All right. So we got Atlanta, Baltimore under 37 and a half.
Yeah. I bet it on DraftKings, but I think it's been 37 and a half across pretty much all the books. That is an official play for me.
We got it up on the screen now. It's definitely official. You can't go back on it.
Can't go back. Nope, we got it. And then I have one more official play. The Raiders and the Steelers under 39 and a half. That I have. That's going to be the Saturday night game this week. And that's going to be a cold one. Pittsburgh's going to be 9-10 degrees. The winds are going to be dying down a little bit, but I think you're still going to see them in the 10 to 15 mile per hour range, which is going to give wind chills probably negative single digits. It's going to be cold. So
that's 39 and a half, correct?
Yep.
It's up on the board there. My sentiments on these two games real quick. Atlanta starting to play Desmond Ritter looked the same as they shittily shit their shit.
Shittily.
Shittily.
Did you just create a word?
Yeah. And Baltimore, who knows if Lamar's back or not. The other game, Pittsburgh's starting to put some things together, and I'm thinking they're almost I'll tell you what, he gets a lot of flack. I feel like Mike Tomlin and the whole hasn't had a losing record, and people like to give him shit for that. But it looks like this team is fighting to keep the Tomlin streak alive because they're playing some crappy teams. Don't get me wrong, but they're fighting and they're getting wins. And the Raiders, who always find a way to lose, were the other team this week when the Patriots of all teams just gave them a win. The Patriots gave it to them. So
what was that, man?
Is that going to be the game that kind of switches the Raiders around and maybe they become the team that gets handed wins? I don't think so. I think the Raiders in this game could revert to their normal selves and lose this one to the Steelers. Not an official pick or anything, but I could definitely see that happening. Could definitely see Watt terrorizing Carr. So those are two plays from under Mike. The Raiders under, the Falcons under on announced on the show. That gives him a total of 5 plays this week. I have 2, which means I guess I'll go 1-1. We can hope for. I don't like to give out always a side on the same as something Mike is playing. So if you don't like playing both sides of a game, obviously just play Mike's because his record's way better. But I like New Orleans against Cleveland. The line we'll use officially is plus 2.5 even. What that means for anybody that's watching that isn't used to maybe all the different lingo, just means that if you're taking 2.5, you shouldn't be paying any juice. It should be even, plus 100. If you might be able to get plus 3 if you really look hard at minus 115, minus 120. And again, I say this a lot. I don't mind at all here if you just take the straight up money line. But we'll use plus 2.5 even as the official bet. That way, if they cut it to 2 and go for 2 and don't get it, we get the win. I hate Taysom Hill. I really do. I just hate how they breaks up the rhythm when they have things going well. But in this game with this weather going to shit, I think he could come in handy as like a bulldozer quarterback that maybe can move the pile, get a few short yardage situations. Deshaun Watson's been out for a long time, has come back, hasn't looked great. Does he really want to play in this freezing conditions after not playing forever? I know Chubb is a great running back, but in one of these low-scoring, ugly games, I'm siding with the Saints. I think they're dirty and grimy and can potentially get this done. They've uncovered a new big play threat. Now, granted, it might be hard because of the conditions, but Shaheed has made some big plays. Chris Olave is he played for Ohio State. He's used to playing in some cold conditions, maybe not to this level, but, so I'm going New Orleans. And then my other play is bowl game. The New Orleans game, by the way, the New Orleans-Cleveland, we should have said the time. Do you know that's a Saturday game, New Orleans-Cleveland?
Yes.
Okay. I think it's a 1 o'clock kick.
1 o'clock, yes.
Yep. And then New Orleans is tomorrow night. I'm South Alabama, my other play. South Alabama, college football, tomorrow night, 9 o'clock kickoff. -4. South Alabama is a team that really just they hurt me deep down actually because I had a preseason future bet on them to win their conference, and I got it at like 12-1, and they lost a tiebreaker to Troy. The tiebreaker was they actually lost to Troy straight up 10-6 in an ugly game. But this has been a really good season for South Alabama. They took UCLA, a good team, to the limit, 32-31 early in the season. And they're going against Western Kentucky. And I think South Alabama is a good defense. And I think Western Kentucky is one of those flashier, softer type teams where this South Alabama team that's played Troy and some rugged defenses like that, ugly, dirty this one up, and just start imposing their will. I don't think they're going to be down mentally, even though they didn't win their conference, because it's just huge for them to be in a bowl game. I don't think they've ever had an 11-win season. I know they've never won a bowl game, so I think they come out ready. And I think 4 is still good. I would, even if this moves more, I mean, I would take it all the way at least up till 6 if it would move. Just so you know, but the South Alabama team I'm following, like, it's going back on their results. Like, they could have been down in the dumps if they lost to Troy and knew they pretty much blew their chance of winning the conference. They came out, they won 31-3 over Arkansas State. Then they played Georgia Southern. They battled back, won that game 38-31. They beat Texas State 38-21. They beat Southern Miss, who just won a bowl game, 27-20. They beat Old Dominion 27-20. They just win games. So,
yeah.
A lot of their wins, now granted, a lot of their wins are touchdown type wins, but a touchdown is enough here. So
touchdown's enough. Yeah.
I was just targeting South Alabama for this bowl season. I just think it's going to be the cherry on top of a great season. So I think they're going to go and get it. So anything else you have? We have all our picks out there. We're going to get this up, at some point Wednesday, probably in the morning. It'll probably be up on YouTube maybe tonight, but we'll maybe tweet it out tomorrow because what we're going to do is Mike had already tweeted out the lines he played earlier. He's going to tweet out the ones we have on the show. And then, I'll tweet out, or you can tweet out my plays as well. Tonight, even if we want. My ring light just died, so that's why my has changed. Probably was getting too hot, so it's probably saying time to wrap this shit up, which it is.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah, so I think we got everything covered. I'm hoping for another 1-in-1 week for myself and a big week for you.
Let's do it. See you later.
Have a good one.